On Wednesday, November 10, 2010, the quiet rhythm of this Apple Valley, Ohio neighborhood was interrupted. A mother, her 2 young children, and her best friend completely vanished, leaving no indication of where they had gone. When police entered the family's home, they found blood splattered across the bathroom and carpet. Heavy drag marks led directly toward the basement stairs, but a search of the entire property failed to turn up any of the missing residents. Investigators found a Walmart receipt inside the house for tarps and heavy-duty trash bags. Surveillance footage of that transaction identified 30-year-old Matthew Hoffman, sending a SWAT team to his front door within hours of the discovery. Inside Hoffman's home, officers found an environment that defied logic. The living room floor was buried under deep piles of dry, dead leaves, and bags filled with even more leaves lined the walls of the bathroom.
Behind a blocked doorway in the basement, they found 13-year-old Sarah Maynard. She was bound with rope and duct tape on a bed of leaves. She appeared to be dissociating from the trauma, asking the officers if she was late for school and if they knew what happened to her dog. Sarah was rescued, but the other 3 victims were still missing. With the primary suspect in custody but refusing to cooperate, detectives began a race against the clock to extract a confession before the trail went cold. Hoffman's behavior in the interrogation room was as bizarre as his house. He sat in total silence for 4 hours, ignoring the detectives entirely or responding with childlike hand signals to suggest his heart was broken. This lack of movement can indicate a catatonic state, but for a suspect with a personality disorder, it is often a weapon. By freezing, Hoffman maintained a sense of control over the room, forcing the investigators to fill the silence while he remained unreadable. To break his focus, a female investigator moved her chair to sit side by side with Hoffman, removing the physical barrier of the table. She spoke in a soft, maternal tone, attempting to build rapport by making herself appear non-threatening. She utilized a tactic called theme development, where an interrogator offers a morally acceptable excuse for a crime. She suggested that he didn't mean to hurt anyone and was perhaps just looking for a release from his own loneliness. Hoffman finally broke his silence, but only to frame himself as a caretaker. He claimed he had taken care of Sarah in the basement, specifically mentioning that he fed her and let her watch the movie Iron Man. This attempt to paint himself as a benevolent figure while ignoring the violence that put Sarah in the basement is a common indicator of antisocial personality disorder. He wasn't showing remorse, he was manipulating his own narrative to appear merciful. As the rapport building failed to yield locations, a male detective took a more confrontational approach. He moved into Hoffman's personal space and mirrored his defensive body language, trying to force a reaction out of the suspect. The detective offered a direct trade. He promised to advocate for Hoffman's comfort in jail, but only if Hoffman provided the location of the bodies. It was a clear attempt to give Hoffman a reason to talk that served his own self-interest. Hoffman responded by spinning a gruesome story about a dream he had involving a food processing plant and trash bags filled with remains. He was testing the detectives, offering a fabricated, shocking tale to see if they would still provide the legal help he wanted. Eventually, Hoffman revealed his actual secret. He wanted the detective to shoot him. This suicide by cop demand was driven by a fear of being medicated with antipsychotics, a distrust of authority rooted in his childhood resentment of his father, a career firefighter. These calculated lies and his specific fear of prison medication suggested a high level of awareness. Hoffman wasn't acting out of a break with reality. He was a manipulator who understood exactly what he had done and was now attempting to negotiate his own end. On November 18th, a written confession revealed the crime was a botched burglary. Hoffman had been watching the house from the woods and broke in thinking it was empty. When he was caught in the act, he killed out of a panicked desire to eliminate witnesses. Hoffman finally agreed to lead police to the victims. Investigators and a canine unit moved through the dense, frozen brush of the Cocosine Wildlife Area, following the suspect's directions toward a stand of timber. In this isolated stretch of woods, police found a massive, hollowed-out beech tree. Inside the trunk, they discovered trash bags containing the remains of Tina Herman, Cody Maynard, Stephanie Sprang, and the family dog.
Hoffman had utilized his skills as a former tree trimmer to hide the bodies. He scaled the tree and rigged a pulley system to haul the remains upward, dropping them through a small opening located 6 feet above the forest floor. This methodology was tied to the childhood abandonment issues Hoffman felt regarding his father. For him, the hollow tree and the thousands of dead leaves provided a literal sense of fullness and comfort that countered the psychological emptiness he had lived with since his father left. The recovery of the victims required investigators to analyze Hoffman's environment as an extension of his history. By dismantling his silence piece by piece, they turned a bizarre crime scene into a map that finally led them to the truth hidden in the woods.